Welcome to this edition of Peak Performance Podcast with your host, Thor Conklin. Thor will be sharing the necessary tools, strategies, and psychology you'll need to become a peak performer in any area of your life or business.
Welcome back to another episode of the Peak Performance Podcast. I'm Thor Conklin, and today I've been looking forward to this interview for a while. This is one of my favorite people of all time. She has the energy of 5 to 10 people. She's the author of the Paleo Thyroid Solution. She's been on the show actually twice, I think, so far. You were on my show once. Oh, I'm being reminded once. She is smart. It should have been twice. I was on your show twice. There you go. Well, she's come out with a new book, and I'm telling you, if you follow what we do here, it falls absolutely in line with peak performance. And that is Confident as Fuck. Love the title. Love you. Welcome on the show.
Thank you. You are one of my favorites as well out there, fellow podcasters and guests. You're always so much fun. I can't wait to have you back on in 2020. And yeah, I figured your audience might like this. And, I know this is a lot of stuff you talk and coach about. So it's important that we get on it and unpack it.
Absolutely. And it's interesting because we look at 4 pillars. We do business coaching exclusively, but there's 3 other pillars that have to be as strong as the business. Otherwise, you're just going to tip over. Mindset. You've got to be confident. One of the pillars. Physical. We've talked a lot about this in the past. And then the other one is relationships. If those are messed up, any one of those 3 are messed up, it's not going to work. And it's funny because, not that this is going to be a discussion about dating, but it is something that has been the number one cause of the end of so many relationships that I've had in the past, where I just, as a partner in a relationship, if my other partner is not confident and has self-esteem, I don't know. It just doesn't work. So what's going? Is this a problem that's getting worse? Is it something that's going on in society? And more importantly, how do we fix it?
Well, I think we have just too many things coming at us with social media and everything else where there wasn't that 20 years ago. So maybe confidence wasn't chiseled away at like it can be when you get public commentary, right? Because back in the day, let's say you wrote a book, people weren't writing reviews on Amazon or people were, right? So at the end of the day, now you've got everyone and their mother chiming in on whatever it is that you're doing. Whether it's a mom getting bashed for how they're holding their baby online or, whatever all this BS is, these negative Nancy's out there is just putting out bad vibes. But so I think we have a lot of stuff coming at us that chisels away at it. On the other hand, too, I think that this social media and in general just technology has spawned a platform for people who were confident, who were able to get out there and do something like create their own YouTube channel where they weren't able to do that before. So for a lot of people, there's more opportunities to display that confidence as well. But when I talk about, and I'll just show the book cover, when I talk about confident as fuck, what I'm talking about is inside and outside. And this is what I talk about in the book. You can be like people ask me, they go, well, I'm already confident. Do I need this book? I'm like, yeah, you do. Because confident people like myself and you, we have pitfalls as well. And we have a lot to learn from people that come to us for confidence advice. But one of the pitfalls of this is confident people are not often accessible and have issues being vulnerable. We have trouble with active listening and sometimes diplomacy because we're too confident and hot-headed in our ideas. We'll just rattle it off and react. So we have a lot to learn from people we might think of as beta. Now, on the other hand, too, I want to just say this is not about being confident like Thor and I in terms of performance confidence. Now, I would argue anyone, and I've seen it, the deepest throes of shyness where you can't even talk to people. Listen, you can get to the point where you can speak publicly. I have seen it happen. You can get a social coach. You can go up the realms of getting comfortable with that, but that's not what I'm talking about. Some of the most confident fucking people in this world are the quietest people in the room. And this is really important. One of my best friends is like this. He's the guy you might see at a party. He's standing alone in the corner. Some people might at the party go, oh, I feel bad, poor guy over alone. Don't feel bad for him. He's confident as fuck over there, just observing people, totally comfortable in himself. That's important. And sometimes the people that are outwardly confident, they are not. They're insecure as hell. We see this all the time in politics and everywhere else. A lot of pontificating. That's not confident. Confident people are kind too. So a lot of people get this when they hear about confidence because they think it's that sort of negative connotation of alpha, smash a beer can over your head, barrel over everyone, use it as dominance. And I'm not saying there isn't times where you do want to use confidence as dominance, but at the end of the day, this is about developing the inner and outer to have all-encompassing. And so a story that I share in the book, a very deep story, it's a whole chapter, is that I am one of the most confident people I've ever met. And no one that has ever met me would ever say anything different. And people have come to me throughout my life because they need help asking for a raise or speaking up for themselves, or because they're feeling low and they need a pep talk. And, you know, that's why I'm a coach and do what I do. However, like you said, if you've got one of these areas, I had issues with shame about a physical hand disability I got when I was 22 that lingered in the background and really made me less confident in romantic relationships. And I mean in terms of, I hid something about myself because I was fear of judgment or rejection. I didn't want to be vulnerable. I wanted to just brush it under the rug. And it really effed me up there. You're not going to get away with it. Whatever area that you're in, and everybody, even the most confident people, have somewhere that they can improve or refine.
No question. Vulnerability, how does it play in?
Well, I would argue that the most confident as fuck people are cool with being vulnerable because it's the ultimate, I don't give a shit what you think about me.
Yeah.
It's really tough for alphas and people like us and ultra confident people. Again, like I said, we're not as accessible. You know, you had Tanya Stewart on the show, the alpha woman coach. We're often not accessible. We don't want to show any weakness because we feel like vulnerability is weakness. We don't want to be seen as weak. Again, it'll run you into problems. You're not going to have close relationships and the kind of intense, deep connections that you can have. And again, I would argue the most confident people are people that just don't care and they are open to, you know, and again, I'm not saying wear your heart on your sleeve. I'm not saying you're at a bar and you go tell everyone your life story. That's just being a moron. Yeah. Don't do that. Don't do that. You know, trust the worthy, not the needy. Yeah. But at the end of the day, listen, from the boardroom to the bedroom, you need confidence. You're not going to speak up to your lover and ask for what you want or like in a relationship. And it's a very attractive quality. That's why you want it, but also it's important. And, you know, I wrote the Paleo Thyroid Solution, and you know I'm all about primal ancestral health, but this is our primal instincts, and I want us to get in there and, you know, give it some love, because back in the day when something bad would happen, our ancestors didn't sit around and cry about it. They moved on. So they trudged forward. They weren't victims. On the other hand, too, they declared their worth, drew boundaries. You know, humans are a dominating force. We're all about, we weren't like, whatever. We were like, no, plant the seeds, build the tribe, conquer, you know, I mean, so what are you going to do with your life, yo? You know, look, what do you want to create in your life? You can't do it without confidence. I met a woman and I overheard her. She's a PhD, very smart. But I overheard her say this. She said to someone, you know, the problem is like, I really know my shit. I'm just not confident. Which means she's confident in her knowledge and her abilities in this topic, but she is not confident about getting it out there. So I would say she's confident in her abilities, but she's not confident as fuck. On another hand, I told a story about a guy who I coached in the book. He's an anesthesiologist. So shoots a needle into your neck, puts you under. It requires a huge degree of confidence in your abilities, right? You could kill somebody. On the other hand, too, he also goes and dives into the ocean and spearfishes in the middle of the ocean and wrangles. I mean, very confident, scary, need a lot of confidence for those two activities. Yet the guy cannot go next door and have a conversation with his neighbor about his neighbor pressure washing his house. He thinks this is going to get dirty, and he cannot because he's still a people pleaser. So we can have, you might think someone's confident. Are they really though? Because that guy who can't talk to his neighbor, who can't speak up in a relationship, but he can go out there and rank, you know what I mean? So again, what we think of as confident is not always the case. And so I want to also just kind of share some relatable stories in my book, which I do, to really exemplify that notion that this is not what we're talking about with confidence. Now I would say, and I would argue, and I think you would too, that having both performance, outer confidence, and inner confidence is probably the most complete. But again, you don't need to do that. Maybe you're just the most confident stay-at-home mom, but you might need to speak up to that PTA mom bitch at that meeting because she's barreled over you for 6 months or whatever the situation is. It doesn't matter what we all need it at all times. This is not just for power people. However, if you are one of those people and you want to be a dominating force, and you don't want to misuse your confidence either, and you want to make sure it's solid.
Yeah, you know, it's interesting because I have a conversation with a lot of my male clients, the difference between bravado and masculine. And that extroverted, big expression, loud. I say bravado. I say that's covering up for something. The most confident people, I think the most confident people in the room.
You don't have to tell people.
No. I had a client, it was a private equity guy years ago, and he came in a meeting, he had overalls, literally overalls on. Private equity guy. I didn't know who he was at first. And he sat in this meeting, didn't say a word. He was the most, it was unnerving because the guy didn't say anything. He was just taking some notes. And he looked like he just walked out of maintenance, but there was something about him. You knew that he was somebody. And when the conversation was over, he recapped it. It was like, I don't know who he is, but I'm going to get to know that guy. Didn't say much. Very quiet.
Yeah. It's usually the people the most bravado. It's, well, first of all, you can misuse your confidence to con people. So you're just bullshitting everybody, and then you'll get found out. So that never works. And then at the end of the day, too, I tell the story once. There's this guy. I went to a martini party for some, big Hollywood agency many, many years ago. And everybody was dressed in suits and also just appropriate evening kind of cocktail attire, except for our friend who rolled in there with like camouflage pants and like a, like Puma jacket or something, totally not. And we were like, what the? And then my second thought was, everybody in here is going to wonder who you are because you don't give a shit about the dress code tonight. You're the only one in here that doesn't care. And in a world, especially Hollywood, where everyone cares, everyone's going to go, who's that guy that doesn't care? It's like your overalls guy, right? And also, too, this book is not filled with acronyms about how to. There's not like a million lessons. It's relatable stories, real detailed stories that we've all sort of been through. And on the other hand, too, it's about looking at the things that chisel at our confidence, hanging out with downers, how to not be a downer, how to get rid of toxic downers in your life, getting rid of shame, looking at other areas that people might not consider. And so, again, what you might think of as, I am a very confident person, there still might be something to discover that you can polish up like I had to really then get to being confident as fuck.
I love it. It's, a lot of people, I speak on stage, you're a speaker as well. And, people say all the time, they're like, how do you get comfortable speaking on stage? And I said, well, I just did it when I was really, really uncomfortable and then just kept doing it. And I think probably the most successful or most meaningful work that I did on myself over the last decade was really getting comfortable with being vulnerable. The moment it just switched for me. A good friend of mine, I literally had trouble with saying the word. I would slur it, vulnerability. I couldn't say it. And it's something that she said was really interesting. She said, when you are protecting yourself and you're tight and you're holding yourself, do you feel strong or weak? I'm like, weak. She goes, what happens if you just took your breastplate and you were able to just tear it open and expose to the world everything about you, your soul, and there was nothing to hide, and your arms were spread out. And through your chest, through your heart, through your soul, there was this just energy, this light that just permeated outward. She goes, what position do you feel? I said, absolute power. She goes, but at that moment, you're completely vulnerable, but you feel the most powerful. And it stuck with me. It was like an instant change. I was able to pronounce the word afterwards. And to this day, I just really don't give a fuck. I care deeply about people. I'm careful that my actions don't cause harm. But at the end of the day, I don't really care if you like me or don't like me. It's just, this is who I am. This is what I'm doing. And this is what I'm meant to do. And I let it land where it lands. And it just works for me. And it's completely freeing.
Well, and I'll bring up something you mentioned on when I interviewed you about your first marriage and about, and your only, I guess, I'm not sure what your ex-wife, and you talked about how you were sort of a people pleaser. You didn't speak.
Yeah.
You're not.
Yeah.
So here's the thing. It's totally inauthentic. That means you're a fucking liar, whoever you are, if you're afraid of, so, and then here's what happens. It's a really inauthentic position. And also it's kind of hiding your true whatever, hiding your true feelings, hiding your true. And when we do that, again, we're hiding because we're afraid that if we do unopen the chest or whatever, we're going to get judged, rejected, whatever the quote fear is. It's usually a false fear. But again, So moving towards being like kind of having no shame about your shame, or being really open and vulnerable. And again, you know, choose carefully. But I was, especially alpha females, and guys have a big problem with that. That's why men's groups are really great, or what you do in coaching with guys and doing your podcast, so that they can connect with a guy in this arena who feels this way. Alphas, men and female, like to be in control. It's not that we're control freaks, but we just don't like to be seen as weak. You know, and again, this goes back to the primal instinct of just like, you know, hey, neighboring tribes come in, you know, you want to steal that chick, or whatever the dominating force is. Now in modern day, we just still have this thing where we don't want to appear weak when we're a strong person, but that is weak. That's weak. That's what I learned, is that that's weak. And that really where it's at is vulnerability. And again, you share with people that you're comfortable with. It doesn't mean you have to do a Facebook Live or get on a podcast, but it is really the essence of true deep connection between anybody. You know, sometimes I'm more vulnerable with a stranger, right? Like I'd be more vulnerable in a conversation with a stranger at the gym than I would be with someone I met who might be in my industry or something, and I wouldn't want to show a certain, you know, weakness. So again, I just think that, you know, it's whatever's comfortable for you. But the moment that I opened up and I started to be more vulnerable and open and just sharing my true feelings of what was happening, the most amazing signs came in to just keep me trudging on. You know, the first person that I opened up to about the fact that I had a hand issue that I was really embarrassed about, I tested it out. Someone, you know, had asked me a question, a pretty direct question, and I told them the story about how my hands got injured. And their first response was, oh my God, that happened to me. That's why I podcast and health coach, because my hands got injured too. 2 weeks later, I was open and vulnerable with someone else, and a woman came into my life and has a horrific hand disability. So like within 3 weeks of being open and vulnerable and kind of coming out about this thing I was hiding, which, you know, again, was so stupid. But again, if you look at me, I look totally normal to you. I can go play a game of ping pong with you. My hands look normal. So the reason is I hid it because you couldn't see it, which is way easier, right? I don't have something you can see, but that's also really bad because you get away with it versus, you know, me walking around missing an arm that everybody can kind of comprehend. And so within the first couple of weeks of just being open about this thing for 20 years that had just been hidden in the background and only a few people knew about, you know, and I told you about it privately one time, this ate away at my confidence and ate away at my confidence with relationships. And also prevented me from sharing something that was really important for people to connect with too, because I have this platform that I do. So many people, including myself, benefited from me being vulnerable and open about my experience. And look, some things are better left unsaid forever, and that's okay too, you know? But at the end of the day, this is what I would push people towards. And I think everybody who thinks that they're very confident, we do have some issues again around, I think it's not necessarily self-esteem as much as it's a self-preservation. Like you said, it's like holding it all in. It's a protective mechanism. And again, that's not being confident. It's not authentic. The reason people, look, I used to hire people. I would hire a confident person over someone with more skills. And most bosses do. And it's because confident people are proactive. They learn, they're on top of it, right? They're type A, they're on time, all that kind of stuff. I'm more inclined to hire a confident person than I am someone who's not as confident, but really might have the skill set. It really makes a difference in life. And talk about dating, you know, gosh, I know you've had a lot of experiences probably like this too, but I've been even on dates or even on a phone call with someone and, you know, we're joking around or someone will be like, oh, you're really funny. I don't know if I'm funny enough for you. Or like, oh, you're really smart. Like, you're so smart. You know, those are compliments and they're great, but they're backhanded ass compliments to the person. And right away, I'm just going, no, don't. like, don't. Like, guys, don't. You know, even that's where you don't express the vulnerable thought because we're in that, you know, and again, too, like, what does that say? It leaves me in an uncomfortable position as a woman. I'm looking for a strong man who's confident in himself. And again, I'm not looking for the bravado. I'm just looking for someone who's okay being them in whatever that means. Yeah. You know?
Absolutely. So what does someone do that confidence is not where they want it to be? What are some steps? What are some techniques that they can use in order to build that confidence?
Well, it depends. Like, I'll just start with ground zero. Like, let's say you really can't even speak to people, you're horribly shy. Then that might take getting a social coach and someone who literally will take you out to a mall and help you go talk to people. So that's ground zero. If you are just, and there are people who are even in their 30s and older who are just been debilitated for years. So that you can start there. If it's something like performance confidence, and I want to talk about performance, I talk about this in the book. When I started performing sketch comedy initially, I had what people call, it's a very common thing actually in performing, it's called the pre-show shits. And basically it's like before your first performance, 20 minutes, you're like, oh my God, and you're like in the bathroom. And this would happen before like every show until the fourth and last show that I did of my very first performing sketch comedy, and I didn't have it. And then many years later, I performed like over 100 shows, and I would remember newbies in the backstage going, "Oh my God!" I'm like, "Oh, you have the pre-show shits, don't worry." And so look, sometimes at first it's uncomfortable. You might go through something even physical like that. So what I tell people is, I know this sounds strange. It's not about being an actor. Go take an improv class. This is probably one of the cheapest ways you can get out of yourself. Why do I say that? Improv classes are, if you get a great teacher, they're great places to fail and make an ass of yourself, and nobody cares because we're all there for the same thing. It's also really not about being funny. Improv classes are about following the rules of storytelling. And a lot of people get into an improv class and they think, oh, they're like trying to be funny. And what you realize is that when someone tries to plan something in improv, it never works. It has to be off the cuff. And what I like about improv is it's scary, it's embarrassing, you feel so gross even being there, like, who do I think I am? Like, I think I'm going to be funny or some performer. I mean, it is an awkward thing to be a part of, but it's probably, to me, the cheapest, most supportive environment for you to get off your feet and be up in front of people. And it's just your group. You don't have to necessarily attend the improv performance at the end of the show. That's a really cheap, easy way to get out of yourself, and just because nothing's scarier than that. So when you go through something like that and you get out of it, then speaking to people is like way less scary. However, listen, there's going to be moments you're going to get refined. I'm sure when you first spoke, you're rattled and now you're excited. And I'm the same way. I get excited when I speak. And listen, people ask me, well, do you have moments? Of course I do. I was at Paleo FX last year. I had a big speech. Before the speech, I had one thought. It was like a moment of like, oh shit, who do I think I am? And then I'm like, hold on a minute. And then the self-talk was, you know what, Elle? You asked for this fucking life. You asked for this shit, and you're going to go up there and you're going to kick ass. And I did. So it's not that we are going to be immune to little jabs coming in. It's that when you're confident as fuck, you can turn it around right away, and they don't even come in as much. So improv, I would say too, for me, it's about getting rid of people that are stomping on your dreams. Too much of us are sharing our, what did Steve Harvey say? Don't share your $1 million idea with a $100 person. People need to get rid of downers and stop being a downer. And I have a whole section in my book, because you might be out there and you're like, oh yeah, I know some downers. And I would go, yeah, guess what? You're one too. And let me give a very specific example. I have many examples of this in the book, but this is a classic one that a lot of people have probably been through, something like this. I have a friend of mine who does not have health insurance and hasn't had health insurance. She's 45, hasn't had health insurance ever. And I'm a person who was raised like, you never go out of the house without health insurance, right? Something could happen. I'm also a beneficiary of insurance, so I understand how important it is to have it. This is my belief system. So I was having a conversation with her one day, and I was like, you have got to get, like, this is so stupid. Like, something could go wrong, and this is this. She said, Elle, I just don't have the same belief system as you. I have no worries about my health at all whatsoever. I don't walk out of my house worried that I don't have insurance. I just don't have these beliefs. And I was like, oh my God. I was sitting there on the other end of the phone going, oh my God, this is like crazy, right? And so I try to convince her nothing works. We hang up the phone, and here's my first thought. I go, you know what? Watch. Something's going to happen. She'll see that I'm right. Record scratch. Hold on. We really have to unpack that. In order for me to be right about a simple point about her needing insurance, my friend would have to be fucked. She'd have to be so screwed that she couldn't financially afford a bill in order for me to be right. So when you are off a phone conversation, you're not feeling good, or you're judging someone else, that's going to also chip away at your self-confidence and your overall sense of being. It's low vibration. And so we all have thoughts like this. Now, I called her up right away, and I was like, oh my God, I had the worst, just want to clear this energy. We have a lot of thoughts like that. So when you're thinking about someone like, yeah, right. Ooh, that's going to come back right in your face. It's going to come right back in your face. And so we got to look at the ways where we're being downers in our thoughts and verbally to people. I remember when I would tell, I put this example in the book. Sometimes when people ask me what I do so many things, but I'll say like I'm a writer. One time I said, I'm a writer. And a guy goes, so are you like a real writer who makes money at it? Or do you like, write at Starbucks, but like have another job? And I said, wow, that's a fucking downer. Would you say that to someone who had their real estate license? Would you say, oh, do you actually make money selling houses, or do you just live at home but have your license? He goes, well, that's different. I go, no, it's not. You're a fucking downer. And number two, thank you very much, because people like you who are negative Nancy's and naysayers on my life just propel me to success. So mahalo, motherfucker. I mean, listen, this happens all the time. You're going to get it from everywhere. Even a family member. When I was telling them we're writing my first book, I told them that Mark was excited about, like, I was going to pitch this book to Mark Sisson, and the family member goes, well, but you've never written a book before. What a downer. I was like, well, that's just semantics, because, I've written a bunch of other things, whatever. Then the next phase happened, and I go, Mark gave me the book deal. And they go, well, now you're gonna have to write it. Oh my God. And this is like, these are people who love me. These can be people in your family who you love who aren't normally done. Yeah. This stuff happens. These comments come out of people's mouths, or these thoughts like, oh, yeah, right, dumbass insurance, so she'll see what happens. But let me tell you, in my face on this one, I write about this in the book. When I was growing up in downtown Chicago, there were two fellow teenagers that had come over to my house, and with a bunch of people. And they were talking about how they were going to go out to Los Angeles to pursue their Hollywood movie dreams. And I, at the time, distinctly remember being like, yeah, right. Like in my head, I was like, yeah, right, these bitches are going to be back on a plane in like a month. In my face, they both became extremely famous, wealthy, and extremely respected actresses. Extremely. In my face. Then cut to 15 years later, I'm trying to pursue the same thing. And I could vibe. You know the vibe when someone's like going, yeah, right, about whatever it is that you say to them. So we got to get rid of these downers. We got to stop sharing our stuff with them. And then we also have to stop being them too. This is all just a part of, again, how to become as confident as fuck. And my thing is like, we're with those thoughts, or like, ooh, well, I don't know, are they going to want to publish your book? Like those kind of thoughts are just, they're really hoping people fail. It's really what that is. When someone's going, yeah, right, good luck with that. They want you to fail. And this is where people, and especially women too, and I talk about this in the book, women need to be pro-women. I'm tired of women fighting with each other on TV and all this bullshit. This is not my reality, and I do not hang out with bitches like that. And no one should. If you sense that your friends are jealous of you or not supportive of you, they probably are. Get new friends or stop sharing that stuff. I stopped calling people who I'd be excited. I'm always excited and encouraging for them and their success. So I'm down with OPC, other people's confidence. And if you don't want your confidence fucked with, you stop digging at other people's. What does it hurt to be encouraging to someone? I'll give you another example I put in the book. I coached a woman who was at a very busy time at work in her career, a very high level executive, and her assistant under her quit in order to take a job that was like her job somewhere else. So it was it was a promotion for him. And it was just a bad time. And she called me and she's like, oh my God, I can't even believe he's only managed like 30 people. He's going to get in there. He's way over his head. Doesn't know what he's doing. Watch. He'll come back. He'll fail and he'll be begging for his job back. And I said, whoa, do you really? You love this guy and you want him to stay. Yet at the same time, now you're just relegating him to where he fails so badly. He's got to come back to you and crawl on his feet and beg for his job back. Do you really want that for him? I mean, let's think about it. Do you really want that? And she's like, no, I don't. He's a really good person. And I go, what if he goes to the other job and kicks ass? I go, that's possible. Yeah. She goes, no, it's possible. And so it was just unwrapping that thought a little bit for her to go, oh my God, no, I don't. And why does this matter? People go, why does it matter what you're thinking about someone else if you're not expressing it? Because what do you think the vibe's going to be when she goes back into work the next day? She's going to walk in there with a vibe of like, yeah, good luck with your fucking new job, versus walking in there with a vibe of encouragement. Cut to like a year later, I asked her, I go, hey, whatever, did you ever hear back from that guy? He excelled beyond belief at that new job. Why wouldn't we want that for anybody? So again, it was just a selfish moment where she didn't want someone to leave. She was busy. Her ego reacted and she's like, oh, he's never going to be able to do that. He's over. We have these thoughts all the time and there's nothing necessarily wrong with having them. But as you go down this process of self-examination and all the stuff I throw out in my book, you'll start to see that you need to catch these thoughts. We need to turn them around. We need to do different next time. How would you I would be mortified if my friend was thinking that way about me. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And so again, sometimes if you're starting off with a lower level of confidence, then you need to either not engage downers and these other people in your life who are going to judge you, who you're afraid might. You need to get an unbiased coach or an unbiased group online, people that are going to support you. And when you're ready to kind of come up against the shit that I come up against all the time that way, then you're going to be fine. Then you're going to feel resilient. It's not going to dig at you a little bit. But believe me, I mean, I've had it at every step of the way, and it could be even by loved ones and friends.
Yeah.
I'm a good friend, and my God, what a downer thought I had. Do you know what I mean, Thor? I mean, we've all had these thoughts.
No question. No question. You know, one of the things that, and I've been talking about this a bunch recently, is we get so twisted up. I used to. I don't anymore. But we get so twisted up with failure. Everyone's trying to avoid failure. Think about everything that you've learned to do in your life. Every single thing other than breathing, you learned how to do it. You didn't know how to poop. You didn't know how to pee. You didn't know how to walk. You didn't know how to ride a bike. None of it. You failed miserably at it until you finally figured out how to do it properly. I embrace failure. I set my goals so high. I don't care if I get there. All I got to do is get a little further from where I am now, because the goals I set are huge. We were talking before we came on air about the 2020 fitness challenge that I have. I have no idea if I can do it. It doesn't matter. And I won't lose one bit of confidence. As a matter of fact, I'm going to gain a bunch of confidence by just saying that I'm going to do it. And I know parts of it seem a little unreasonable, and I'm probably going to fail at a couple pieces. Let's say I know I'll fail at a bunch of the pieces along the way. I don't know. Maybe I'll get there, maybe I won't. But this idea that failure is this thing to avoid, I say embrace it, because the sooner you start failing at it, the sooner you're going to learn how to do it.
Yeah, and back to the improv classes, one of the things most teachers say in the beginning is we all stand up and go, "I failed." Like after they make you kind of go do that, just to be okay with the fact that you're going to fail in this class and you're going to look like an ass, and that's okay. We're all here to do it, and just be embarrassed. Let's all be embarrassed together, because again, it's about getting outside of yourself. So again, back to just who are you hanging out with? What are the thoughts you're thinking about other people and judgments, or looking at other people's lives? How are you supporting or not supporting people through your thoughts or words? And becoming more of the person you would like other people to be to support you. You know, I am an incredible cheerleader. I'm always happy and wishing. This is confident people don't compete, okay? Because when you compete, you lose. And I have a whole thing in my my book about this. And part of this is that when you're competing against somebody, you are wanting them to lose to elevate yourself. When I'm competing, I'm just competing to fucking win. I don't care who's in the goddamn race. And you know what? I might beat Joe and Jack, but I'm not like, I can't wait to beat them. It's more like, I just can't wait to be number one. There is a different vibration. You know, one is really, again, like putting yourself above or below someone and your superiority or how you feel and your ego related to that. And the other is just pro you winning. And I often win. I win contests. I win stuff all the time. And have for my whole life. And I think it's because I've never competed really against people. And I definitely don't compete against women. That's another thing too. If you want to be as confident, you can't be confident. And then, for example, let's say someone comes to me and they're like, well, I want to be a podcaster or a writer. My first thought isn't, oh my God, they're going to take my place or they're going to become more successful than me. You know, a lot of people think about their careers in terms of, well, I don't want to help them, because then what if you help them? That's how you become more successful. There's not anyone that I'm intimidated by or in conflict with. Like if you came to me and you wanted to be a podcaster writer, I would help you be as successful as you can at it, because there's room for all of us to be awesome. I don't give a shit about what you're doing. What you're doing is there's room for us. It's not going to inhibit my abilities. But when and again, that's competitive, jealousy people. Those are people that have low self-esteem, low confidence. And again, I use them kind of interchangeably in the book, because self-esteem and confidence, while psychologists, will define them differently, they are intertwined to me, because I don't believe you can really have one without the other. In order to be confident as fuck, you have to have self-esteem and confidence, inside, outside. You know what I mean?
Absolutely love it. Elle, it is always a pleasure to have you on the show. We could go on and on for hours. Tell the audience how they can get the book and how they can get in touch with you as well.
Sure. Well, you can go to elleruss.com. And if you have a thyroid problem, there's a free thyroid guide there, and you can find some more information about me. But you can just go to amazon.com. My book is on Kindle and print versions. And Mark Sisson did the foreword, which was lovely. He published my first book, and he is the founder of the podcast that I host every week called the Primal Blueprint Podcast, where Thor has made 2 appearances and a third in 2020. So stay tuned. That's every Monday. And this is also a really good book to buy for people that you know are kind of victims and they're not listening to you. Then just give them my book, and that should shape up their shit. That's what a lot of people have said to me. They're like, I need to buy this book for like 5 people. And I think part of it is because I call out every aspect of all of our BS, including my own. You know what I mean? And I think it's important we just start there. And I want to encourage everybody to just get excited about self-examination. Get in there because, listen, peak performer, right? You want to dominate? Here's how you do it.
Love it. It is always a pleasure, and we look forward to having you back on the show.
Thanks.